Hi, I'm Kirk Carlsen. I lead PLM Product Marketing at Oracle, and I'm here today with Roddy Martin, the VP of Supply Chain Marketing at Oracle. Roddy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you very much, Kirk. Yes, I'm Roddy Martin, the Vice President of SCM Product Marketing, and it's a very interesting role given this conference.
Well, we're so glad to have Roddy here. So we're on the last day of the Modern Supply Chain Experience. So I wanted to ask Roddy a few questions. Maybe you could give us a little bit of an overview of the supply chain experience here that Oracle puts on every year. And Roddy, what did you think about the supply chain experience this year?
I think it was really good, and I'm going to single out one particular aspect of why I think it was good. I think there were around about 65% of the attendees were line of business. And that is the nature of supply chain. These are people who are solving real business problems. Yes, they're putting in systems. So not only were they line of business, but I think the way we set out and threaded all the presentations, the hall with all of the applications so people could go and look at stuff, it was much less overwhelming than last year. And it really felt good. And I've had a lot of very positive comments. I think also the opportunity to put real customers, analysts, consultants on the stage in panel formats, get them to talk through their experiences. That's real learning opportunities for many of the attendees. So I think it's orders of magnitude simpler, clearer than last year, and I think was less overwhelming.
Yeah, and like Roddy said, this is the biggest event that we have for supply chain professionals. We've got over 3,000 attendees here, and Roddy led a panel this afternoon on some of the supply chain changes that are happening in this digital transformation era. So Roddy, can you walk us through sort of your tenure and your career and some of the changes that you've seen? I know you've been in the industry for a number of years. So can you walk us through those changes?
Sure, Kirk. And the changes are actually quite fundamental. If you go back 10, 15 years, supply chain people were pushing boxes around and driving trucks, right? And they had to take 10 to 15% costs out. And we used a lot of ERP systems. The architectures were complicated. Integration was a nightmare. And transforming a supply chain was easier said than done, quite honestly. What happened is we started to look at the maturity models and the idea which came from some of our research at AMR Research, looking at companies like P&G and Samsung, the idea that the supply chain actually is the operating model of the business and that it's end-to-end. And by the way, it starts with the customer. That's not how we thought about it before. So where supply chain used to be seen to cut costs, now they're seen to cut costs and support growth, which I think now has brought supply chain into much more visibility with the leadership team. So full circle, that's why seeing 65% plus minus of line of business executives here is very, very fundamental. So now enter digital and enter cloud. So now we have real ways of pivoting the supply chain from supply-driven to demand-driven without having to throw the baby out with the bathwater and throw all our systems away. So what the supply chain today is about taking all the digital multimedia insights from consumers and feeding it from the outside to the inside. And what changes fundamentally is continuous improvement has always seemed to be something separate. So was PLM as a matter of interest. They would treat it as separate projects, and we all know that in the maturity model, that's low stage 2. I've got a whole lot of lean projects, and I'm taking waste out of some of the silos, or I'm putting in a PLM system so I can launch new products. But when you look at it outside in from the customer back to supply, then you start realizing that actually PLM is a very fundamental part of the supply chain capability. So that's now built in. When you look at IoT, we never had that real-time data to get visibility of what's happening in the supply chain. Today, you can, get an IoT application up and running with data out of a truck, fleet, machine, and integrate it into the system. So, and then cloud. The fact that I can now go and buy one end-to-end supply chain architecture in the cloud, the challenge is going to be how do we encourage companies not to go out and buy hundreds of different clouds from different vendors with different applications, because otherwise we're just creating another source of complexity.
Yeah, so I think Roddy has a great point here that we're seeing an end-to-end relationship in supply chain in the cloud, one overarching architecture that they all work together and they're all integrated. And what we're seeing in PLM especially is no longer are these companies inside-out processes to create products and innovate new ideas. We're seeing an outside-in relationship. And Roddy had mentioned this demand-driven supply chain, and that's what we're starting to see, this shift with digital and cloud-enabled products. So we're seeing a huge transformation across the supply chain, a digital thread of products in the supply chain, back to ERP and into CX, and that's what we're doing at Oracle. So thank you very much for your time, Roddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Kirk. Thanks.